And now let's hear from Mr. Hart. Mr. Hart, are you there?
Farhan, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
It's good. Please, everyone, this is Selwin Hart, the Secretary-General's advisor on climate action. Selwin, please take the floor, and we'll hear from you before we go to any questions.
Thank you so much, Farhan, and colleagues in the media. It's been some time since I last met with you. I believe it was around the time of the Paris Agreement, when the Paris Agreement entered into force a few years ago. A lot has changed since then, but one thing has not. We need to go faster and further to address the climate crisis. It has gotten worse, not better, but the Paris Agreement represents our best option, our best tool for addressing this global challenge. We are in a moment of mutually compounding crises. COVID-19, the climate crisis, growing inequality, growing hunger, and starvation. And we need action on all these fronts. And this is why the Secretary-General is setting up a youth advisory group on climate change. It is clear that young people understand more than any other group the threat that climate change poses to their present and their future. And they, more than anyone else, have been taking action to confront it. It's time that young people are part of the decision-making process. And this advisory group will give young climate leaders an opportunity to inform the decision-making process and to suggest actions and solutions that will help us move faster and much further. So I wish to congratulate Nisreen, Ernest, Vladislav, Sophia, Nathan, Paloma, and Archana, who have been selected by the Secretary-General to serve on his youth advisory group. This youth advisory group will comprise of 7 initial leaders, climate leaders and members who will serve until the end of 2021, and they come from all regions of the world. They have been selected following consultations with the UN Youth Envoy, she's led consultations with youth and environmental groups over the last few months. The first formal meeting of the group is planned for mid-August on International Youth Day, and it is not a moment too soon. We are at a point where we cannot just focus on one crisis and relegate the others for further and future action. Our goal is to save lives, is to save livelihoods. But let's be clear, while COVID-19 is killing people everywhere, it's the poorest and the most vulnerable who are most affected. Today, as Farhan mentioned earlier, the Secretary-General is also launching a policy brief on the COVID-19 crisis and cities. Cities are bearing the brunt of the crisis, many with strained health systems, inadequate water and sanitation services, and other challenges. This is especially the case in poor areas where the pandemic has exposed deeply rooted inequalities. Cities are also a place incubators for ambitious climate action. In the response to the COVID-19 crisis, we've seen many cities from Milan, Buenos Aires to Bogota create new bike lanes and pedestrian zones. They're reclaiming public spaces and improving mobility, safety, and air quality. By focusing on high ecological transformation, job creation, stimulus packages can steer growth towards a low-carbon, climate-resilient future. The Secretary-General has been very vocal about the need to accelerate climate action now. He has called for 6 climate-positive actions that focus on the need to create green jobs, to stop building new coal power plants, and to end subsidies for fossil fuels. He's also called for a recovery that leaves no one behind. We must take all people with us on the journey to a cleaner, greener, fair economy. And there are some positive signs. We've seen the European Union's Green Deal serve as the centerpiece of their recovery and stimulus package. The Republic of Korea has also announced that its recovery will be guided by the Korean Green New Deal. We've seen the phase out of fossil fuels in Nigeria, and we're seeing record solar auctions in places like India and the UAE. And we're seeing more businesses sign up for science-based global targets that set a path for net zero emissions. And we've recently heard many major announcements from large corporations who've pledged to sharply reduce their emissions while also ensuring that they're held accountable for delivering on these commitments. We can create greener and cleaner economies while creating jobs and building just society. Time is not on our side. Climate change is happening faster. Social tensions are boiling over. We have everything to gain by recovering better, and we can still limit climate change to 1.5. Again, let me congratulate these 7 initial members of the Secretary-General's Youth Advisory Group. We really look forward to working with them over the course of the coming months as they drive us to higher levels of climate ambition. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I'd like to thank Mr. Hart for his remarks and open the floor for any questions. So please, I don't see anyone writing in chat so far. So please send in into chat if you have a question. Anyone? All right. I have a question from Toby Burns. Toby.
Hi there. Thanks very much for this briefing. Which corporations and private sector entities have made pledges that you approve of and that you welcome? Thank you.
Thank you. We've seen a number of major announcements from the tech industry. Of course, as I said, we don't necessarily say that we fully endorse them. Of course, we need to ensure that all of these commitments and targets have plans and strategies behind them to ensure that there is accountability for delivery. Last year, as you may recall, the Secretary-General convened a climate action summit where well over 40 coalitions around around 9 sectors made concrete commitments to reduce emissions and to build climate resilience. That work continues. Those coalitions are growing. And even outside that framework, where I'm seeing, as I said earlier, many corporations from the tech corporations, finance corporations, asset owners alliances, they have been making concrete commitments towards net zero and other significant emission reduction commitments. So again, we are hoping that these companies will come forward with more ambitious commitments, but equally importantly is ensuring that these commitments are accompanied by plans that ensure transparency and accountability for meeting these commitments.
Thanks. And next, there's a question from Dulcie Lineback. Dulcie.
Hi, thanks. I might have missed some of what you said earlier, but is Greta Thunberg involved in this initiative? Thank you.
Sure. I didn't hear your question.
Is Greta Thunberg involved in the initiative?
No. However, Greta is a great example of the sort of outstanding leadership that we've seen from young people who have been leading the charge on climate action. Her contribution on the stage of the General Assembly last year at the Climate Summit was incredibly powerful. I understand that the Youth Envoy's office consulted with Fridays for the Future and invited them to submit nominees. We really don't propose to share the names of all the young people that were nominated or those that were, because this was done in confidence. However, we really encourage Greta and the millions of other young people around the world to continue with their activism, to continue with this strong leadership. And while the Secretary-General has selected these 7 young climate leaders, he will continue to engage with young people all over the world, definitely including Greta, who has really been an outstanding champion for climate action over the course of the last few years.
Okay. And now I believe there's a question from Gloria Starkins.
Yes, I've been working with a Japanese company that soaks up petroleum spills, and their fabrics, which are nano fabrics, pick up the petroleum. But then the fabric has to be destroyed or burned. I wonder how we could find out through you the best way to eliminate and get rid of the hazardous fabrics and materials. There must be fabrics worldwide. Could you help us on that?
I would be more than willing to work with you offline on this. Thank you.
How do I keep in touch with you, sir?
I can send you my contact details.
I would appreciate it, sir.
It's
a very important, large company in Japan. They can cure the oil spills. They have the fabric, and they're using it. They used it in Japan. But the problem is, how do you destroy, then, the nanofiber, that fabric that picks up the petroleum? Because you can't squeeze the petroleum out. You have to destroy the fabric. So there must be a recycling plant somewhere in the world with this new technology that could handle it. And I would be pleased to put you in direct touch, sir, with the company.
Okay.
So how do I find you? How will you find me?
I will send you my contact details. I'm sure that Farhan has your contact details.
I'm in the Uncle book, sir.
Yeah, okay, well,
I can, Gloria, I can send your contact information.
This is really important and real because this fabric has successfully cleaned up petroleum spills, including in Japan 2 years ago, their whole spill. But the problem is the recycling and getting rid of that fabric. You cannot squeeze the petroleum out. So there must be a solution to this. And this is the key, I'm sure, right here.
Yes. And we're also hoping that the ultimate solution will be a move away from fossil fuels in the coming decades as well. And certainly we will depend on the leadership of countries like Japan and the other G20 countries. But we will be, I will definitely reach out to you so that I can get some more information on this potential solution for spills. Thank you.
Exactly. I'll try to put you in touch. And with that, the next question I have is from Maria Khrenova of TAS. Maria?
Hi, thank you for the briefing very much. On behalf of the United Nations Correspondent Association, we appreciate it. I wanted to ask about the current situation. The UN raised concern about the contamination with some COVID-19 related products like face masks and gloves and bottles of after emptied sanitizers. So what does UN have any recommendations on what to do in our day-to-day life when we need to use a lot of masks? Like, is it better to use rewashable masks? And how is it better to dispose gloves? Is it possible to recycle them somehow? Thank you.
Thanks. I'm definitely not a health expert, so I can't give any advice on the best type of mask to use. However, there is much concern over the an increasing amount of plastics. It's been observed that that there is an increasing amount of plastic in our oceans and waterways, and some have linked this to, as you correctly said, the increased use of disposable masks and plastic gloves and the like. And I would encourage everyone to dispose of these items as in a responsible way, in keeping with the various rules and regulations of whatever municipality or location that you have as relates to the disposal of plastics. But this points to the much larger problem of plastics in our oceans and our waterways and ways. And I am originally from a small island developing state, and I know the devastating impact that plastics have on our oceans. And while we're very focused right now on the recovery from the pandemic, we cannot lose sight of the need to significantly reduce plastics, the use of plastics and plastics in our oceans and waterways. And I'm very happy that that we will still be going forward with the Oceans Conference next year. I don't believe that a date has been announced, and I know that this will be one of the issues, signature issues under discussions by global leaders next year at the Oceans Conference. But, you know, this remains a significant problem, and we can't lose sight and focus on the need to be very responsible in how we dispose of plastics.
Thanks. I don't see anyone indicating that they wanted any questions. So you have one more chance. Going once, going twice. I think that's it for questions. So again, I'd like to thank our guest, Mr. Selwin Hart. Thanks a lot, Selwin. It's a really good briefing. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
And everyone have a good afternoon.
Thanks.
Bye.